Let's see here. Bam. What up, Yang Gang? We are live and we got a special guest in the house, Tom, of course, from Nerds. Hello, Nerds, as always.
Hello, nerds.
That's right.
I actually have some alcohol this time.
Yeah, what you sipping on there, Tom?
This is a Pinot that my neighbor gave me, and it's quite delicious. Yeah.
Well, tonight's sponsor is Shock Top.
All right, then. Oh,
Nice,
nice
easy-
little Belgian white beer, right?
Nice, easy going. I like dark beers,
Yeah.
porters and stouts, because around here in Michigan, we're known for breweries, wineries, and dispensaries because we have legal marijuana now. So we're
got
the
it
place to
all.
be. Yeah, we got all the vices wrapped up here.
Yeah.
We got good farmland. You can grow hops and marijuana and hemp and all kinds of stuff. man.
I love it. I love
but
it.
Yeah, but yeah, so just so you guys know, down at the bottom, you see this little ticker I worked on. It's called ofthepeople.us. That's Tom's new little project here. So just go ahead and just tell people what this whole thing's about, man.
Yeah, I don't even know when we started it. It started, I don't know, like earlier this year on Twitter. And I think I said something around like, hey, it would be cool if there were a Kickstarter for Congress where people who've never run before can still kind of like test the waters.
Yep.
And the Elections Commission actually has an official test the waters clause, which is like, hey, you don't have to register in some early point until you raise a certain amount of money. And so the idea was, why can't more everyday people run for office? Like, why does it have to be the same people, the same names, every time? And if you are an everyday person, busy with a day job, family, often, you may not have a lot of time to kind of like figure out if there's some traction or like your story resonates with people. So the idea is like you can basically create a profile that says a little bit about you, the policies you're advocating, obviously where you're located, and maybe in the future take some questions, and then you can set a goal, which is sort of like a make me run goal. So it's like, hey, if I get 10,000 people to say they'd support me, then okay, then I'll officially like file the paperwork and go for it.
Yeah, and spend some money. It costs money to even register as a candidate, right? Like some places.
Yeah. So it's money and it's time and it's paperwork, and so for a lot of people, they're like, well, I don't want to do all that and then realize like nobody's interested. So this is a way to like say like, hey, look, it costs you nothing to set up an OTP of the people page. Do it. If you hit your goal, then that's a signal from the market that you've got something. If you don't hit your goal, no skin off your back. At least you kind of put your name out there. So yeah, we are an all volunteer project, and we have some Patreon supporters, which we're very grateful for.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been in development now. Like we're basically all doing it a few hours each weekend, and we're trying to launch a beta in January.
Well, let's go ahead and let's take a look.
Yeah,
let's take a tour.
Sure.
So here is that beautiful website. Of course, the red, white, and blue. I love it.
Yeah. I tried to keep it real simple.
Yeah.
And like this website is really just sort of a explanation of what we're up to. And, the idea is it's not necessarily just for the Yang Gang. Of course, I would imagine, given, the channel and everything, we'll probably have a few Yang Gang involved. But it's basically just for more competition. Like we want more people holding our representatives accountable. And one way to do that is to say to voters, like you don't always have to go with the incumbent.
Right.
And the other thing is like, maybe in the long run, you don't also have to completely, curry favor with the current party bosses either. Like maybe there could be grassroots candidates that kind of come out of nowhere.
Yeah, and I think that also is I consider it almost like caucuses are kind of like almost like unionizing to say we are in solidarity together with a common cause. And I think if we have people coming from a common location like something like this with the same core group of politically active people, this could be a good way of really caucusing people together and causing or creating a new type of, like Justice Democrats and UBI Democrats or whatever.
Yeah, that's a good point in that it's not just for the candidates. There could be voters and people who are really actively engaged who are looking for people to support.
Yeah.
And so in the future, as we launch this thing and hopefully get some more, candidates, you can then filter and search by topics that you're interested in. So you could say, hey, I want to find candidates who are in the Northwest and support UBI, and maybe they're candidates of color, or they're women candidates, or they're male candidates, or the candidates who worked in business, whatever you care, whatever kind of criteria you can think of. And then you can more easily kind of identify these candidates that resonate with you. And then maybe you can even help. And in addition to expressing your support for them, you can volunteer for them. You can get to know them, kind of vet them. And then maybe in the long run, there'll be some members of OTP who aren't professional candidates, but they're professional candidate kind of like talent seekers, like talent scouts. And they're really good at finding the next AOC, that kind of thing.
So is this going to be somewhere like you can come to say, I want to volunteer as I want to try being a campaign manager for a small campaign, or earn your way up and try and like build your resume, if you will, and say, I want to be in charge of someone's social media. This is my thing. Or like a treacle type of guy, an up and coming treacle who want to make videos for this could be I don't know, like almost like a Fiverr for politics, where skills and volunteers here possibly.
It definitely has the potential to be this kind of like sort of marketplace where everybody kind of comes together: candidates, supporters, volunteers, professional staff, that kind of thing. Actually, if you go back, boys, to that homepage and you scroll down, there's a little bit more content there. You scroll down. Yeah.
Oh, here you go. Okay. You got a little background about it.
Yeah. So what we're trying to say here is that, we want some fresh faces, and that this is a nonpartisan, all volunteer experiment. And the goal is to bring new candidates both to local races, like, city council or county representative or commissioner, all the way up to mayor and then congressperson or senator. And so it's really, in some ways, harkens back to what I think the founding fathers had in mind,
right?
Which was that this was a government that was made of the people. Yeah. And it was not a government made of professional politicians. It was people who would say, you know what, I'll take a couple years out of my normal kind of career and, do my serve my country, and then I'll come back out. And, but, in reality, that's not what we're seeing today. And if you scroll down to the next section, it'll kind of share some of the statistics where, a typical congressman is there for 10 years, 5 terms, reelected over and over and over, which is up since 1950 by 50%. And despite the fact that most people are dissatisfied with Congress, 70% say Congress isn't doing a great job. I mean, we know right now with our fantastic stimulus plan that this is not an impressive crowd. And yet, yet 91% get reelected.
Yeah.
So it's like, what's going on? You're not happy with these guys. So
it's time for change.
Yes. So our view is like, okay, let's empower a whole new wave of candidates that come from everyday life and who may not be handpicked by, this party or that party or this even interest group or that interest group. They're just great people. And there's a couple of ways that it makes it really useful. If you scroll down to some of the features for candidates, I can talk through some of those.
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah. So number one is like no FEC registration. Like this is officially Test Awards. So you're not raising money yet. You could set up your profile in like 5 minutes. You can collect non-binding financial pledges. And you can start conversations, to your point, Boyce, with future campaign managers, social media managers, designers, canvassers, whatever.
Nice. Yeah. That's
great. And then you can get early feedback from potential constituents about your messaging, your priorities, their concerns, because we could facilitate these like Ask Me Anythings or forums or those kinds of things. And then if at any time you're like, okay, just wasn't for me, I'm not feeling the love, you can always, archive or delete your profile and, it's no skin off your back. And then on the voter side, it's a great way to browse and discover folks aside from your district's incumbent. Like who else is running and what can I learn about this person? And maybe I can ask them a question and engage with them and see sort of maybe if they're a better match for my interests. You could also encourage people to run who've never run before, because there might be people who create a profile to, let's say if we were live tonight, and Boyce, you see that person, and because of your encouragement, that individual, gets a little bit closer to making the run, who otherwise would never have done it.
Right.
Because running for office is a big deal, right?
Yes,
and it's scary. So, people need some encouragement. Maybe in the future, you can even draft people who aren't on OTP and you can say, hey, look, I'm going to create a profile for Boyce, even though he hasn't created one for himself, because I just really want to get him on, to run. You can give feedback to prospective candidates, and then you can offer help, So this is sort of the candidates and voters kind of value proposition. And then if you scroll down a little further, I think we talk a little bit about, well, you guys all know me from Nerds, but my co-founder, Ian, is our technical co-founder, and he's been in software development pretty much since like 99. And he's done it in startups. He's done it at Amazon. He's built stuff at YouTube, and now he's at Google. So he's amazing. I was just talking to him today. He's we were just dog fooding some early code, and it's looking pretty good. So we're super excited about that. And then we also have a couple other volunteers. I have Sam, who is also a very experienced front-end engineer, and Marin, a designer, and Nisa, a marketer. So there's a bunch of us who are, basically volunteering our time. We work in the technology industry. We're generally pretty experienced. Our biggest challenge is probably just time because of the day job and family and stuff like that. I wish we could have launched by now, but we're looking like we will in January. And then we have a Patreon kind of page where...
So that's this year?
Yeah, then folks can support it. And shout out to Eric Sanchez, the comms director for Yang 2020, who's a big supporter of our efforts. And all of this money basically goes to some of the like hosting costs on Amazon Web Services, GitHub, that kind of thing. But also we're going to hold on to some of it and use it for marketing when the website goes live. All right, Boyce, are you doing what I think you're doing?
I think it's saved.
Or you can do that later if you don't want to.
Nope.
Oh, shit, man.
It's done.
Wait, but you may need to, in the replay, you may need to cut out that middle screen, because for a moment,
it's just for a moment. And it's just, I mean, who the hell am I? What are you going to get done? $50. Go ahead and try. It's not worth the squeeze, man.
Well, appreciate your support, boys.
No, I believe if you believe in it, don't just talk about it, do something about it. So I figure, you know what, this is a worthy cause. I know I'll be using it because.
Are you thinking of going for it, making a run?
No, I am going to do something.
I
just don't know what yet. Because in Michigan, we have this gerrymandering legislation we did, or anti-gerrymandering. So now we're going to redistrict, and they have like a independent council who's going to be rezoning everything, like 70,000 people per district type of thing. And then I don't know what district I'm going to live in yet.
Right.
So
yeah, that districting is so crucial. I mean, I would say when you think about one of the things I'd love to add to OTP is a kind of like, what are your chances kind of wizard. So it's like, put in your zip code and then we'll tell you how strong your incumbent is, how much they won by, what the Democrat Republican voting looks like, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And maybe if OTP becomes really big, we can actually commission polling. For certain districts. If we think, wow, we have an OTP candidate that's gotten a lot of traction, maybe we can provide some more intelligence and make that and open source it, make it available to everyone in the district. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, I felt like we're seeing the same old faces all the time, and we need more. And even if our candidates don't win, they can at least force the incumbent or the eventual winner to pay a little more attention and to realize like, shit, man, I got these OTP guys or these Yang Gang guys or whatever. Give me trouble. Yeah, okay. I'll do a little bit more cash, direct cash relief. Maybe not the full UBI, but you can kind of nudge people a little bit each year.
Yeah, we got some questions here. Inferno says, "How many Yang Gang Congress people you want? How many do we want?" Oh, well, all of them, whatever that number is. But I think in this cycle we had 2 get into Congress or 3 into the U.S. Congress. I think we had.
Interestingly enough, I think the ones that had the most Yang Gang love did not get over the line. It was some of the ones that were a little more centrist that were backed by HF that did. And so I guess it depends on who is a Yang Gang congressperson.
Was it like Strickland, right?
Yeah, Strickland was pretty Yang Gang. Yeah.
She's in there.
Yeah.
David Kim came close, man.
Kim came close. Blair Walsingham, I think we all loved. That's a tough, talk about tough district.
Impossible district for her.
That's a hard district, And it's such bullshit, like how they draw these district lines. They make it impossible. You look at them and you're like, in what alien world is this some natural geographic, kind of district?
It looked more like an ink blot test.
Yeah.
Splat.
It was incredible. So, but for 2022, I would love to see.
Mondaire Jones is the other one. That's right.
Yeah.
Jones. Yep.
I would love to see. Well, on OTP, if I had my way, if we get one to win, it's a huge deal. Frankly, if we got even like 3 or 4 to run through OTP, I would be excited.
Well, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to be there one way or another.
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
Airlord says, "Are you going to be supporting Republicans?" Of course.
Yeah. So it's an open platform.
Yeah.
And I think that will help also in a way. People might come to OTP thinking they're going to support a Republican or a Democrat, and they might discover someone who kind of is like, this person's kind of interesting. I think one of the things that we'd love to do is not just make the profiles available, but really introduce expectations around candidate accessibility and availability to talk about things. And maybe someday there'll be OTP debates over YouTube or whatever.
I'm telling you what, Tom, if I run or when I run, what I run for, I'm look right now in 2022, what's up in my district right now is state senator. That's a lofty goal, but I think it's doable. because the person in there now is named Debbie Stapp. Now she's
I think I've heard of her.
Yeah, she's a slimy old dog fish, you know. You've heard her name because she's as slimy as the rest of them. And it's time to go. She's been there for 24 years. And I want to run a platform that's 100% democracy reform. RCV first and foremost. Because in Michigan, we have no gerrymandering now. We have term limits in our state already. So I want to look into maybe doing ranked choice voting on the ballot. I want to help collect signatures in Michigan. I want to start working with RCV organizations to start getting that going as soon as this pandemic's over. We're going to start doing signature collections all over the state. That's my goal.
I love it.
I think if I do that kind of organizing, I can get my name out there a little more and kind of get my feet underneath me. Like, okay, so if we get this on the ballot and I run, this is something we can make happen.
Yeah.
Because the people want it. And if I get 100,000 signatures, that's 100,000 votes potentially.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to say that's my number one topic is RCV 100%. And I want to also think about, like, that's something I'd ask you about is maybe even like find a way of like collecting resources of people that you could talk to that are experts or like that want to volunteer.
Oh, yeah.
Let's say like an economist. Like I would like to get an economist that knows Michigan's economy and say, okay, my idea is in Michigan, what if we replace the sales tax or the state income tax with a VAT? Because there's less jobs to tax our income on.
Yeah.
And go to VAT. We capture that tourism money and the business to business transactions, the VAT, you know. So
yeah.
I think that's something that you need to figure those numbers out and crunch.
There's something really interesting in what you're talking about, which also relates to the centralized like kind of polling resource. There's this interesting like kind of cost to enter a race is you have to have enough resources to have these consultants, these experts, and conduct these polls and all those things.
Yeah.
And it becomes very like cost prohibitive for many candidates. But what if an organization like OTP could actually staff a shared resource, like, you know, an economist, a statistician, you know, a pollster, and they would have to be nonpartisan because basically it'd be like, look, whatever OTP profiles get the most support, like this is like a resource available to you as a candidate, and you get certain many hours a week or whatever. I think that would be so interesting because it is one of the ways that the incumbents block out new entrants because the new entrants can't afford to kind of put together that kind of team.
Well, and they hoard.
And
they hoard skill.
Yes.
Talent.
Yeah.
Like Bloomberg bought out all the talent that weakened everyone else's campaigns. I mean, he bought everybody out in Iowa.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I would love to encourage like the best consultants and experts to basically do some pro bono time on OTP and say, hey, look, I know you work for all the big names, but we're all about helping, you know, first time candidates, and this is a way for you to give back. Not to mention, you know, it won't hurt your brand that you're doing this because one of those guys is going to end up becoming something, and they're going to remember.
Yeah, and imagine if you're that one that catches the next Andrew Yang at the bottom, at the basement level.
Oh yeah.
And you get to be known as that person that helped them rise, and you know, just like the Zach Grauman's, the Eric Sanchez's, the Carly Riley's, and all those guys that were there on day one in his mom's kitchen. You know, like a 5-person team that says, "Okay, ready, break, let's go." You know, and I do love that idea of communal resources like that, where I think you can get some serious support.
Yeah, we're
could support from like a PAC could do some funding and say, hey, we want to support like an RCV PAC or the People's Party PAC, whatever. Excuse me. They can all say Democrats, Republicans, it doesn't matter, not left, not right, forward. Here's a resource, and if you can get that type of, that can be significant.
I think so. You know, eventually, I think we're gonna, if we get traction for this project, I think at some point we will set up it as a nonprofit organization, and then if we found like one philanthropic minded person who, let's say like a McKinsey or some tech entrepreneur,
Jack
Dorsey, to drop like a $10 million check. Then suddenly, or even $1 million check, it's like, hey, do you want to invest in democracy? Because that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to save democracy. We're trying to encourage more competition from all parties, and we want more people to run. The only thing, it's all upside. Basically, voters get more choices. Who doesn't want more choice?
And the talent will trickle up.
Yeah.
Period. That's why I think if I can just get numbers on the economy for Michigan, I could set myself apart from any other Democrat in the primary or Republican in the general in my state of Michigan.
Yeah.
Where I could be like, yeah, I understand what the Republicans are saying, but I got this data that says, here it is. It's open source. Come check it out.
Right.
And if it's wrong, correct me and I'll update it. But and I think what I would do if I had time, I would say, okay, every Sunday night at 9 p.m., I'm going to go live and take AMA from constituents.
Right.
And you've got to go through your local DNC, RNC reps or whatever to get this through them. Not just any willy-nilly person around the world, but it's going to be only my people in my district or whatever it is in the state. And somehow have some kind of a closed system where it needs to have just direct access to your candidates.
Yeah.
And host online debates, because what I do is I want to dominate the internet in the state of Michigan for politics. I want to be the Kyle Kalinske of Michigan. He's one of my people I kind of model myself after, because he's a secular person, but like to say, okay, I'm 100% way more accessible and more transparent and out there, willing to talk to anybody, and it's going to be good timing for me because my kids, I have I have a sophomore in college. I have a senior in high school this year and 2 juniors. So 2022, they'll be graduating. They'll all go to college. So the general in Michigan will be around the time they're graduating, or the primary. Then I'll have nothing but time.
Yeah, that'll be great.
Oh, that'd be significant. And I'd love to just take a hard run at this thing and be like, you know what? I'm going to try and say nicer things. No, I've said so much crazy shit online. Oh my goodness.
Well, I think one of the most exciting things to me is today, if you're an incumbent, you can basically kind of hide and not engage, because like you just play not to lose.
Yep.
And what I would love to do with OTP is say, hey, we're going to have multiple long form interviews with each candidate. And if you don't participate and you don't make yourself accessible, like voters will start to notice that. And we will have an open debate with, 5 people in a district, not 2,
Put that empty podium like they did in Georgia.
Yeah.
That was gorgeous. That was poetically symbolic, man. Like, and representing Republicans, this empty podium, and they zoomed in on it. I'm like, yes.
Yeah. So
let me be your campaign manager, man. Let's
there
see
you go. You got your first applicant.
Well, guys, I don't know what to tell you about this. It's kind of fickle out here. Nobody gives a shit right now because nothing's happening. It's just, let's be real. I'm a Yang Gang YouTuber, and the Yang Gang checked out. About 80% of us checked out 6 months ago. I mean, as soon as he dropped out,
a few of us. There's a few of us hanging in there, but it's definitely a different level of energy. I mean, I noticed even with my little petition to try and get more pressure on Biden and to offer Yang a cabinet post, like I don't think we still haven't reached 5,000 signatures. I remember back in the day we could rock that stuff.
25,000,
right? Yeah.
Easily.
Now, in fairness, I think a lot of people who support Yang really don't like Biden and Harris, and they're like, I don't want him to have any part of that. So I'm sure there's way more Yang Gang still out there, but Yeah, it's definitely less than let's
just,
call it, the fall of last year.
yeah, they just checked out. They're just like, you know what, man, this I see through the bullshit and I'm out, and I don't blame them. I don't blame anyone for saying this. Everyone's disincentivized to participate.
Yeah, I almost feel like Yang in some ways gave people a lot of hope, but then when he didn't go the distance, it sort of like was hard for a lot of people they just checked out, like you said, right? And they just I think a lot of us are taking a long view, which is like, well, when you look at history, like with the exception of Donald Trump, but in a way, who's been a public figure for decades.
Yeah.
You really, it takes a while to become president.
It takes a while to win any race.
Right.
It's like the NFL. It's hard to win one game.
Yeah. And that's right. Any given Sunday, man. So
it's hard to win one game.
so here we are, like a new team, and just putting together like the staff and like trying to just feel the roster. And he certainly went further than anybody else, I think, outside of the Yang Gang expected. And there's so much more that he can do. Like, he doesn't have to run for president again to have impact.
No.
So there's a lot going on, and hopefully Yang won't be the only one. That there'll be some people watching this right now who say, you know what, I want to be part of the solution. I think, Boyce, you made a great point on the Trumper for Yang.
Well, the panel,
a T for Y podcast panel, right? And I think you made the point that people should start taking action locally and getting out there, because like we can like and share and hashtag all day long.
Yeah, it's a waste.
But like, what does that feed anyone? No. So at some point, to like, you were talking about RCV, like I'm starting to do some volunteer work at the county level around vocational training programs for youth. Like, everybody, if we all put in the same amount of energy in our local communities as we do in Twitter sort of raging debates, which I also unfortunately participate in as well, the world would be a way better place. Like, we don't have to change the Oval Office to help our community.
No, but that's why I always go back to the same thing. Good ideas and good talent should trickle up, and so should good legislation. That's like California's been the leader for change because it's a progressive state, and then it starts in California, it makes its way to New York, and it picks up some states along the way when it comes to any kind of legislative change with, like, let's say emissions control, stuff like that. That California's the first one to put standards on that. Then all of a sudden, across this country, it's the same premise. Like, Maine was the first one to have ranked choice voting in the whole state. Alaska just approved it, and Massachusetts had it defeated.
Almost,
People were just overwhelmed. I think they were just like, that's too much to learn. But like I was saying during that debate, we have 26 states that have direct access to democracy. We decide what gets put on the ballot by collecting signatures.
Yeah,
they can't stop us.
Yeah,
they can't stop us.
and getting, like, just imagine if all of the Yang Gang, we picked one state that already seemed open to RCV, or was like RCV kind of like friendly environment, right? Yeah. And we say, okay, everybody, now I know I'm about to piss a bunch of Yang Gang off, but I've had a couple sips of wine.
There you go.
Rather than starting a third party, we could pick a state and converge and try and introduce and promote ranked choice voting, approval voting, whatever, some alternatives to the current system. And we could probably get that thing on the ballot and get that thing passed. And that would affect more lives if you multiply the probability of that happening by the impact, and then the probability of having a winning third party become elected president, at times that likely impact. I think the expected outcome would be much higher.
Well, it's juice versus squeeze, man. What's it called? ROI, return on investment.
Yes.
How many how many thousands of hours of time are you willing to dedicate to get minimal reward?
Yeah.
Or you just like, F this, I'm gonna get a second job. At least I'll make some money. You know, like instead of dumping.
Yeah.
Time.
Well, I mean, Fred was making that point too. I mean, he devoted a big part of his life, and then what did he get out of it? I would tell Fred, hey man, I think in the long run, the promotion of Yang's platform has changed a lot of minds, and people are talking about direct cash relief in a way that they wouldn't have years ago. And there's real benefit to that. But I also would agree, like, you can't put it all your eggs in the Yang becoming president basket. Like, you can do more for your country and your community, at all levels.
I agree with Shale on this a little bit, where bipartisan coalition of Congress people will be more effective than a third party.
Yeah, you know what? You get like 1 or 2 senators. I mean, look at the power of some of those like progressive Republican, like moderate Republicans.
Yeah, Bernie and what's his name that just did? They stood their ground, says we're not leaving until we get this done.
Right. Yeah. Or is it Snow? Is the Snow the one in Maine? Where the senator in Maine, Collins, maybe Collins. Yeah.
The lady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, she has huge power because she's the one vote that's like, I'm not going to go full MAGA, right? And so if there were similarly one basic income senator, or one RCV senator, whatever, you suddenly have way more influence than in terms of the whole country, because you can hold shit up. You can say, hey, I need my interests met. Otherwise, like, I'm not sure I'm going to vote, with the herd on this one.
Especially in the Senate, 2 is 10%.
Yeah, seriously.
2 is not 10. It's 5%. Sorry. Yeah, 2 out of 100.
2 is 2%. Yeah.
Yeah. But like, that's enough to.
Well, 2 is 2%, but it's also 2 is sometimes the difference between something passing and not passing.
Yeah, it's a 4-vote swing.
Yeah, exactly.
And
so it's half of the winnable votes.
Right. It's that margin of error.
Yeah.
You can be like, you know what? If I can get 2 people, the swing voters, if you will, and the moderates.
And they always have this, like, the gang of 5, the gang of this, and they end up like, because you got the extremes yelling at each other, and then this reasonable middle tries and do something, and so I agree. I feel like there is a opportunity for us as the Yang gang to just sort of diversify our efforts, and we don't always have to. I'm not going to tell anyone to stop fighting for a third party or a third party presidential win if that's what they have deep conviction about. All I'm saying is there's the state, there's the county, there's the town, and as you get smaller in scope, you can actually increase your probability of getting something done.
Yep.
And that can snowball upwards.
Well, and like I was saying, things go up. And if you can just, like, you can take over a whole town. There's a documentary, it was on Netflix. I can't remember what it's called. It's about this cult that moved from like India to like Oregon. And they tried to build this community. Then the locals like, we don't want these bunch of weirdos. And they tried to zone them out of town by zoning them out. They said, okay, then we're going to run against you. There's this community. They outvoted the people and they took over the entire city council.
Yeah.
And they said, now what?
Yeah.
And then they started doing all this crap. We're like, it's just that easy in a small town. It's higher percentage. 7 people on a city council. You can say, okay, let's get 4 people on that board.
Yeah.
City or county.
Yeah, I mean, sadly, I wish it were the case, but oftentimes it's not like 10 people run for each city council seat.
Unopposed.
Some of them are unopposed, and then, like, for me, I'm offering myself up as a volunteer for like a county commission focused on the juvenile justice and delinquency prevention, and my area of interest is on vocational training. And they've been like super eager, like, oh wow, you're willing to spend like a few hours a week, helping us kind of figure this vocational stuff out. I'm like, yeah, dude, like this will be great. And so I think, just I hope everybody considers maybe for 2021, go check out like your county commissioner.
Yep.
They post all these volunteer positions that you can be helpful with, and you can make a real difference for your neighbors. And like you don't have to get 80 million votes.
Yeah, no kidding. Some districts are like 800 and you're good.
Yeah.
Like I live at, you get 800 votes, you could probably be the mayor. Like I live in a small town.
Yeah.
But I know I'm respect for your time. It's been over 30 minutes. It's been 40 minutes. So we're looking at January, this thing popping off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Ian and I and Sam and Martin, we're all digging in, and we're trying to put some extra hours in over the holidays, and so that we can get this thing out sometime in January. May not be January 1, but let's just say before the end of January, we'll have a beta where candidates can create a profile and voters can voice their support, and there'll be a little counter, and there'll be like a goal, and you can embed your little intro YouTube video if you're a candidate, that kind of thing. And we'll see it. We'll start from there.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I'm signing up first.
I love it.
I'm first generation right here. I'm in because I'm thinking about it hard. I can't decide what I want to do until December of 2021 when the new districts get drawn. New maps are done, but until then I can kind of just figure things out,
Yeah.
But I'm definitely going to be looking into that 100%. That's why I said I'm donating right now, starting it right now, because I'm going to use this resource. I might as well help pay for it. Jesus.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So guys, ofthepeople.us, go check it out if you want to help support. As cheap as $5 a month. I just did it, and it's that simple.
Yeah, and all the money goes to the project. We're all volunteer. We're not getting anything out of this. Just trying to save democracy.
When I know websites aren't free, I paid for one $480 for 1 year.
Yeah, you know it.
All right, Tom. Well, thanks for your time, man. We'll do it again. Once this thing's running, I'll do another one and be like, all right, guys. And I'll actually walk through the signing up process.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Show people this is what it's like, and then, demonstrate.
Love it. Love it.
Tom's been a pleasure drinking with you. And
let's do it again sometime. Godzilla says goodbye.
Yes.